السلام عليكم طلاب المرحلة الثانية. اليوم عندنا أول مختبر عن البلاد and hemopoiesis in hemopoietic and lymphatic module. Blood is a specialized connective tissue which is consists of plasma, which is a fluid, consists mainly of water, protein, and other solutes, and the formed elements represented by cells, which are erythrocytes, leukocytes, and platelets. This tube of blood centrifuged. The precipitate represent erythrocytes. The supernatant represent plasma, and there is a layer between the plasma and erythrocyte called buffy layers. Buffy coat. Buffy coat consists of leukocytes and platelets. We have two types of platelets, granulocytes and agranulocytes. Called granulocytes according to the presence of granules in their cytoplasm. The first cell is neutrophils, fine pink granules in cytoplasm, while the granules eosinophil are red, bright pink or red, coarse granules, while in basophil there is a coarse purple or blue granules in cytoplasm. This is the granulocyte. We can differentiate between their nucleus. The neutrophil have multilobulated cells, 3 to 5 lobes, bind one to each other by a thin thread of chromatin. This is in neutrophils. While in eosinophil, it is bilobulated nucleus. Bilobed, bind by a thin thread of chromatin. While in basophil, there is S-shape or irregular shape nucleus. And this granules تكون coarse blue granules. While agranulocyte, which have no granules in their cytoplasm, represented by monocyte, the biggest cell in the blood, have a kidney-shaped nucleus and surrounded by a cytoplasm with no granules. Lymphocyte, the smallest cell, their diameter near the diameter of RBC, 7 to 8 micron, have a nucleus. Large nucleus occupy most the volume of the cell, surrounded by a thin rim of cytoplasm. All these, all leukocytes, act in immune response. Finally, platelets, which is anucleated cells, which is a part of megakaryocytes cytoplasm. Their function mainly in blood clot. This is erythrocyte, a biconcave shape, have a center, light stain center, and surrounded by a bolded or dark stain margin. This difference in color, center light and margin dark, according to their biconcave shape. This aggregation of RBCs in a capillary. This is the capillary, which consists of two endothelial cells. This is the first nucleus of endothelial cell, and this is the second. This RBC aggregate in capillary called arolex. The second formed element is leukocyte, or called white blood cell, which is represented by granulocytes and agranulocytes. Agranulocytes, they include neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophil, while the agranulocytes, like specific granules, include lymphocyte and monocyte. This is the white blood cell neutrophil, multilobulated nucleus, bind one to each other by a thin thread of chromatin. This is the histological feature of a nucleus in a blood smear. This is the blood smear. This is RBCs. Center light, margin bolded or dark, according to their biconcave shape. This is a neutrophil, RBCs, neutrophil. The second leukocyte granulated is eosinophil, bilobulated, bind one to each other by a thin thread of chromatin, has coarse red granules in their cytoplasm. You can see and differentiate between eosinophil and neutrophil in their cytoplasm. Fine pink, red or dark pink, multilobulated, bilobulated. This is RBCs. This is the ultra structure or EM of eosinophil. This is the first lobe and this is the second. Bind one to each by a thin thread of chromatin. This is the vacuole that contain specific granules اللي هي coarse orange granules. Last cell in granulated is basophil, irregular nucleus or S-shaped nucleus, and has large purple or blue granules in their cytoplasm. This is the EM nucleus, cytoplasm. This is the granules that contain dark secretion or dark stain. The first cell of a granulated lymphocyte is lymphocyte. Rounded nucleus occupies the volume of the cell surrounded by a thin rim of cytoplasm. This is the ultrastructure EM. Rounded nucleus occupies the most volume of the cell surrounded by a thin rim of cytoplasm. This is the mitochondria. The second cell is monocyte in agranulated cytoplasm. This is the nucleus, kidney shape, agranulated cytoplasm. Kidney shape nucleus. This is, you can see and compare between monocyte, the biggest cell in the blood, and the smallest cell, lymphocyte. Two of them are agranulocytes. The other cell is the platelets. This is the aggregation or clumps of platelets, the membrane bounded, the organelles, fibers, globulins, proteins responsible for blood clotting. This is the part that pinches off megakaryocytes in bone marrow, represented by platelets. This is the platelets. Pinches part of megakaryocyte, cytoplasmic part of it. Now we have hemopoiesis. Hemo mean blood in Latin. Poiesis mean form. Formation of a blood cell. Renew blood cell occur in bone marrow. All the cells differentiated and mature in bone marrow, then secreted to the blood by a process called hemopoiesis, blood cell formation. This is the cell that originated, differentiated in bone marrow, and finally, when it is full differentiated, go to the blood vessel. This part go to the blood vessels. All this cell occur here in bone marrow. This is the bone marrow. This is the hemopoietic part of the bone marrow. All the cell here differentiated, mature, and the bone marrow consists of other part اللي هو adipose tissue. This is the adipose tissue that consists of adipose cell. Round cell have a fat vacuole, occupy the volume or most the volume of the cell, and have a peripheral nucleus. This is the first part. And يعني bone marrow consists of hemopoietic tissue and adipose tissue. The bone marrow located in bone marrow cavity. This is the cavity of the bone marrow, and this is the trabeculae of bony material. The main cell in bone marrow is a pluripotent stem cell, which is developed to myeloid stem cell and lymphoid stem cell. Have two lines, lymphoid line and myeloid line. Lymphoid line responsible for lymphoid stem cell, which is developed to lymphoblast according to their type B and T. B according to the bone marrow and T according to the thymus. Differentiation of lymphocyte in bone marrow or in thymus. كل بلاست تتحول إلى سايت. progenitor cell تتحول إلى mature in blood vessel. lymphoblast converted or developed to the lymphocyte. B lymphoblast converted to B lymphocyte. While the myeloid stem cell divided into three differentiated cells to form erythrocytes, platelets, granulocytes, and monocyte. The first cell, progenitor cell, in erythrocyte formation, this process called erythropoiesis, begin from pro-erythroblast. قلنا كل بلاست تتحول تقريبا إلى سايت. البرو-erythroblast تتحول إلى بيزوفيليك erythroblast. البيزوفيليك تتحول إلى بوليكروماتوفيليك erythroblast. بدأت تتحول إلى حامضية، بدأ السيتوبلازم مالتها يتغير إلى البرتقالي. بعدين تتحول إلى chromatophilic erythroblast, eject their nucleus, converted to reticulocyte, became for 1 week in the blood, and finally differentiated to a mature erythrocyte. While the formation of platelets called thrombopoiesis begin with the progenitor cell, converted to megakaryoblast. megakaryoblast قلنا تتحول للسايت، بس مو الأخيرة اللي قبلها، pro megakaryocyte, and finally converted to megakaryocyte. This cell pinch of cytoplasmic ended and converted to platelets or thrombopoietin. Finally, the myeloid stem cell participate in leukopoiesis, formation of granulocyte and monocyte. The progenitor cell of leukocytes divided to myeloblast and monoblast. Monoblast converted to promonocyte, and promonocyte converted to mature monocyte and blood vessel, while the myeloblast converted to promyelocyte. Promyelocyte converted to myelocyte. According to their granules, their size and colors, eosinophilic myelocyte, basophilic myelocyte, and neutrophilic myelocyte. This is of kidney-shaped nucleus. When differentiated to metamyelocytes, the nucleus became more rounded. And according to their granules, cytoplasmic granules, converted to eosinophilic metamyelocyte, basophilic metamyelocyte, and neutrophilic metamyelocyte. Metamyelocyte converted to differentiated eosinophil, basophil, and neutrophil. All these cells in a blood vessel, as I mentioned, while all these cells from pluripotent stem cell and the other progenitor and precursor found in located in bone marrow. This is the bone marrow that consists of hemopoietic tissue and adipose tissue. All the cells differentiate and mature in this part of bone marrow. Thank you for listening.